Welcome to another episode of the Writer's Game podcast, where we help you magnify your voice and monetize your message. Today, I have somebody here that understands what it takes to be able to break through the barriers of business. Her ability to have vision, empower people, as well as create a scalable and systemized business that she can pass down to generations is truly special. And she's going to talk to you about not just methodologies and techniques and challenges that she's survived on this journey of being a successful entrepreneur, but she's going to provide you advice that has helped her become a better mother, wife, and individual that is inspiring so many individuals around the world. Aliya, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Kyle?
I am absolutely amazing. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Your energy is literally unmatched. But I'm excited for people to learn who you are and how you're leveraging not only your story but your experiences to
Mhm.
change the world. So talk to us.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for having me. Such an honor to be on the podcast. Thank you. Thank you. Um, yeah, so I'm Aliya Johnson Roberts. I am a mother, wife, entrepreneur. I own two early childhood education programs with my mother, who has been in the industry for 40 years. And most recently, when I say such a surprise, we now have our third generation in the business, which is my daughter, who is like my right hand now. So um, it's been a journey. It has truly been a journey, but I wouldn't change it for anything. So I'm so excited to just be in this space. I didn't expect to be here, and I oftentimes have to go back and think about what kind of led up to this journey, so that I can document it and share it with other business owners and childcare business owners. I think a lot of times we don't actually think about what it took to get us where we are.
Mhm.
And so at that point, we can decide where we make changes, what we duplicate, what we do again, because that is what's working. I don't want anything to be like sanity. I mean, insanity, where we keep doing the same thing over and over and it's not producing results. But something's working. So I decided to really document that process and say, okay, let me figure out, and ended up being a 6-step process, and share it, and not only share it honestly, because I subscribe to what I teach. I'm literally living the 6-step process in my business, and I'm duplicating it, refining it, and now sharing it.
There's so many questions that one could ask. How do you first work with your mom that has been in the business for 40 years, as well as how did you get to the point of hiring your daughter? All of these different questions, and how did you build the business? But before we get into all the strategic, tactical questions, what is the question that in your journey you wish more people asked you?
Wow. I would the foundation. I would, because it's so interesting. I'm thinking about what we share with people now, which is people want to know, how did you get where you are, but not wanting it to take as long as it took you. And I get that, because I want the same thing, right? It took me 15 years to get here. And it's like, okay, how can I, propel my business or accelerate my business without it taking 15 years?
Mhm.
Absolutely. However, there was a foundation set, and we can't ignore the foundation, because that is right. Just like a house is built, that is exactly what we have to stand on. So it's not about a quick fix, which even when I teach the 6-step process, we start with the foundation. So while I definitely want people to tap in to, kind of figure out how to move their businesses forward, I really do want them to always want to hear the beginning story, the foundation, and what set that foundation to allow for us to be able to service 250 children, for us to be able to work with the community, for us to be able to do all that we do. We stay true to the foundation. And so, I really want people to not despise the early beginnings and what it took to really start the work. Um, I would say that. Because sometimes
And
we
you
have to go back to the basics. This
No,
is going back to the
100%.
basics. Yeah.
I think it's, I think in anything, whether it's sports, whether it's business, whether it's parenting, I think there's foundational and fundamental steps that
Exactly.
you have to understand.
Yes.
When you think of this foundation and the story of the business that got you to this place, what is the foundation and what is the story that got you here?
Yeah. So it's so again, you go back and you think about the beginning, and this journey really began with me being a child in my mother's childcare program. Right. To me, I was home. I was home, but so my mom started with a home childcare program. It's called a group, and basically, so in Pennsylvania, you can have up to 12 children in a group program within your home. And so, I mean, it was just every day for me. That was life. And but what I understand now is that what I experienced, not only as her daughter, but I was raised with the children as well, is that those basic things that she had done, which is cooking meals from scratch. When I say like chicken noodle soup from scratch, hot oatmeal, like the meals and the family support, and being there for the families, right? Because it is a service, but there is such a partnership that happens and there's trust built. And I was able to see how, when I say I grew up with these children, I'm talking from, I mean, so she started it when I was about 4 or 5. Um, and I mean, I'm until they went off to school, 5 to 10, 12 years. Uh-oh. Did it stop?
Yeah.
Okay. 5, 10, 12 years. Um, Children would stay, children and families would stay. So it wasn't a lot of children in and out. We really grew up together. And so I really got to see, I think about this one little boy, my husband and I talk about him. He was there on Christmas Day. His mother was a trucker. And so he was with us a lot. And I didn't understand it back then, but that was really supporting that family. It's not the same now, but those were the type of things that when um, those families had more children or grandchildren or family members, they referred them so that they could also become a part of the family. And that's exactly what happened. When I say today, we still have children of the children she took care of. Uh, they come back and they're looking for Miss Linda because they knew what they received back then. And so I still find that it's important that feeding children, right? She is still in the kitchen making meals from scratch. She's serious about, like, when it's cold days, she's like, no, it's cold. They're not going to have a cold meal. They have to have hot food. And so it really was meeting the needs of the children and the family.
I think it takes a
Period.
level of intentionality and consideration, and,
Absolutely.
and not just looking at your business as a business, but creating a culture of community, kind of like that village minded mentality
That's it.
that was so lost.
Exactly.
What would be your advice to someone that wants to not only build a childcare company, but any company, and the importance of creating a culture of community and why that's important?
Yes. So first step is always core values, core values, mission, standing for something. It's so interesting. I don't even know if I was trying to be as profound as I see now, but in my yearbook, my statement was, if you stand for something, you fall for anything. And so back then it may have been cliche, it may have sounded good, but I look back now and I was like, you were on to something because uh, that's exactly that's exactly what it takes in the business now. And that's what I think about. And that's what people connect with, is what you stand for and who you are and how you consistently show up. And so whether it's a childcare business, a business in general, whether we're talking about you as a brand, it is how you show up, how you are consistent, and that's what people connect with. And once they're connected with you and it's genuine and consistent, they stay. And that's where you start to build community. Community doesn't have to be 500 people. Community starts with one, and then you connect with someone else, and now you have two, right? So definitely believe in the power of partnerships. So, and then once you have two, then you have three, and it grows from there. But having those core values and that mission defined and followed through with, um, that's sustainability there.
I love that, because I think that so many people believe that community is created once you have like 100 people or 10 people. But if you can't effectively create the relationship or the connection or the partnership with one individual and create a sense of a referable type of offer or a referable business model, then you're not going to be able to attract the
Exactly.
100 to 200 to 300 people.
Exactly.
Once one identifies their mission and their values and sets that foundation, what comes after that? What is the next step in the process of six?
Next step is internal audit. So I liken my 6-step process to, it's called the accelerator program. So a lot of it is related to this idea of a car. And so the first step is getting the keys, and that is the core values and setting the foundation. And then step 2 is internal audit. And so it's looking at your business. Where are you right now? And I don't think we do that enough, whether it is the business or ourselves personally. We have to turn within. So in order for you to be able to identify where you're going, you have to know where you are. So it is a moment of pausing and saying, okay, we set the foundation. We know who we are. This is how we're going to show up every day. And we're definitely going to extend that to other people. So when they do connect with us, whether it is customers or staff, they also understand the core values and the mission. And now we can look internally and say, okay, where is my business now? What are the numbers, whether they're scorecards and measurables? We don't jump to profit. We find out, break even points and things like that. So in childcare, we typically have capacity depending on the state that you are. They all have regulations where you define what your capacity is. So you have to really understand what your numbers are. We don't, I know there are a lot of people get into the business and they want to know, well, how much can we charge for each child? And then you kind of, multiply that. It's not that simple. It's not that simple. So it really is looking internally to find out your data points so that you can say, okay, here is where I need to be in order to just break even. We start there. And then we start to look at ways that we can create a profit. How many staff do we need per child? What's our budget? You have to be able to create all of those numbers and those financials so that you can then create a healthy business.
I
That's
believe
it.
there was a statistic years ago that I read. I think it said 80 to 90% of startup businesses fail because they're simply undercapitalized.
Yes,
They either don't understand how to make enough money, they don't understand how to manage their current money, and frankly, they just don't take time to look at the numbers so that they can understand how to go about doing business.
absolutely.
This is the same in your industry as well.
Same thing.
But this wasn't something that you always mastered and you just always innately knew. What education or resources did you have to gain or learn from so that you could be able to be an expert in this area in internally auditing your business?
Oh, great question. So of course, right, experience is the best teacher. So I came into the business. So while I grew up in the business, that was not my career choice initially. So I came from the fashion world. That was my dream. I got my degree in that. I worked in fashion buying. And I remember my mom approached me asking me to partner with her on the business side because my mom is very, right, she's in the kitchen, she's with the children, holding babies. And I had the business, the business mind. So us together was a stronger force. So when I came into the business, I was finding out from her what it looked like in childcare. And I remember her saying, we have a lot of subsidy because we are in the city, we're in Philadelphia. And so we service a number of different demographics, but we do have a lot of subsidy, which means that the state, based on families' income and situations, that they'll pay for their childcare. But there is a cap to that. And so they have what they call market rate surveys, where you inform the state the max that you charge. And so coming into the business, I was told just whatever they say they'll pay, that's what you put on the form. Okay. So come to find out, it was not sustainable. It was so in childcare, and those who are familiar, it is not properly funded. Um, in knowing the history of it, I learned that childcare really was based on just making sure that children were safe while families went to work,
Mm.
period. So therefore, it's under Department of Human Services. It is not under the Department of Education.
Okay.
So a lot of times when we're frustrated that we don't get paid the same as teachers in a school district, that is because they are under Department of Education. But now childcare has taken a turn to where as though we're not just babysitting, we are educating children, keeping them safe, and right. So we're doing all of that, but it's underfunded. So if we are saying, okay, whatever it is that you guys pay, we'll accept that. And however, at the same time, we're becoming more educated. We're hiring staff who have degrees. I have my master's degree, enrolled in PhD. So at some point, what you're paying is not sufficient. So I found that literally, I would be like sick to my stomach, like, okay, it's almost payroll. We don't have enough, right? Like,
Wow.
waking up in the middle of the night, like, okay, all right, so how can we maneuver this? And there would be times when my mom and I wouldn't get paid just yet because we had to make sure the staff were paid first. So that living paycheck to paycheck was kind of in the business. It right. The math was not mathing, as they say.
Not at all.
It was not sufficient. So I ended up, so I enrolled in school. So I'm becoming educated in early childhood education, understanding how to teach children and develop children, but not tapping into the business. And that's what I think a lot of times us in early childhood education, we love children, we love families, but we could do better on the business side. And this is where I wanted to come in. So what I did was I started getting involved in business focused organizations. And so the turning point for me was I enrolled in the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses. And that was not childcare related. It was all business. Is based on Babson College curriculum. So it is strictly business, free, but that doesn't mean there's no investment. The investment was your time.
Exactly.
And I remember not, I was really reluctant to join the program because it required so much time. And it's like, I can't afford to not be at the center. But what I couldn't afford to do was to not learn how to run my business better. So I
Exactly.
did that. And that was the turning point, because now we learned about finances. When I say we're digging deep, I was like, wait a minute, what is going on? We also learned about networking, though. Like, everything wasn't all about money. It was about networking, making connections. I learned that whoever you bank with, you should have a relationship with. I was like, oh, well, I just go to my bank because they hold my money. And no, they taught you how to have relationships with people who hold your money. Your accountant shouldn't just prepare your taxes. I learned the differences between CPA, bookkeeping. And so they said you should have a relationship with your financial professionals. And at that point, they prepared my taxes, but they had no idea what my goals were as a business. We had no conversations. So, I learned a lot about a business owner and looking at cash flow. I was like, how do you calculate cash flow?
Wow.
And that was the problem, was that I didn't know how much money I needed over a span of time. And so that's when I started to make different business decisions, and I ended up diversifying our income. So I shared with you about state subsidy. I will never forget, those in Pennsylvania know we had a budget impasse, meaning they were at a standstill and they did not come to a head with the budget. And for months, we did not receive state subsidy.
Wow.
That was our money. That was all of our money. So staff understood, everyone was in the same boat. And so we were at an impasse as well. And we waited for money. And I said, I never want to be in that space again. And so I diversified our income. And so we have contracts, we have state, federal, private pay, state subsidies. So even when COVID happened, we were blessed enough. I know everyone weren't in that situation, but because we had different funders, even if one stopped paying, we had other income. So, we were okay. And so that was what I did. I invested not only money with my education, and I also invested time in programs that would teach me what I needed to know about business strictly.
This is so much, and that was heavy, all that you just gave, because you gave so many lessons in the span of a few minutes. The importance of diversifying your income, the importance of understanding and learning business strategy, planning ahead in regards to cash flow. But a big one is the importance of investing in yourself. And all investments don't just mean financially. It takes sometimes an investment of time and energy and that sweat equity that is necessary for you to become the person that you are today. When you think about the number one investment that you've made in your career, whether it's in childcare, wherever, what does that investment look like? And what were some of the sacrifices that were attached to that investment that you had to make?
Hmm. Wow. So I shared one. Like, I always bring the Goldman Sachs up because that was the first time that I learned that it wasn't just about money. That the time, and I tell you, I waited maybe 2 or 3 years before I had actually I was given the information from someone really close who actually is now one of my business coaches would tell me about it, and I was like, but there was fear there, and so that was one. The hmm, other investments, I can't say any. I cannot say many of them were money. I'm thinking about just even the time that I took in spending in my business and learning it more, and that investment actually took me away from really. I spent so much time with my business baby that I had less time with my family, which is one thing now that I am totally shifting. Like, I'm able to understand how to look at all areas of my life instead of just business. I am passionate about my business, meaning I love it so much that spending 12 to 15 hours on it doesn't feel like grueling work. It feels like passion. So it's easy for me to spend all day working. But I also had to realize that the cost was taking time from my family. So because of that, it's so interesting because now I can even make the connections. Because of that, I'm learning that by making the investments that I've made, whether financial, because I do invest in different coaches as well. I understand. I was told that years ago that Oprah has a couple of different coaches, and I get it because of business, life coaching, different kinds, childcare related, non-childcare related, but because they speak to different parts of your life. But I've learned that by making those investments and changing how I did my business and automating some things and investing in other staff, I'll say that's yet another investment, because sometimes it's like, they're asking for too much. But if I pay you more, then I could work less and get my time back so that I could spend it with my family.
That's good.
So those are the type of investments that I made so that I could buy my time back.
In this journey, Aliya, of entrepreneurship, it's not just about business. It's not just about the things that we learn on this journey that are professionally related. What is something that this journey has taught you about yourself that makes you proud?
Oh, whoa. I would say so, and this is an area I really had to grow in, because I'm one of those people who I'm a recovering perfectionist, working on that. but learning that, it's not about perfection, it's about progress and just, just the journey. So I've learned to, I understand that I am resilient and that I am really ambitious. So I know that if I put my mind to it, I'm going to do it. And so I've learned along the way that even though, of course, things aren't always easy and you're thrown curveballs and things like that. I remember that was one of the roughest times when we had so in childcare, there's so many different liabilities and like violations with the state. And so we had an accident at one of the centers. I wasn't even there at the moment. I wasn't there when the child got hurt, and it truly was an accident. Luckily, we had the video. They were running, they fell. And, when I tell you, I really believe that we had done everything perfectly. I was like, okay, but we did all the paperwork. We made the call to the family. Everything is great. And ended up being charged with neglect, child neglect. And what happens when you are charged with something like that, that really attaches to your name. So in childcare, we have to have clearances, meaning if you can't get cleared to work with children, you can't. So every 5 years, well, initially you have to get all of your clearances, state, federal, child abuse, all of those things. But this case was attached to my name, meaning that I wouldn't be able to work with children if it stuck. I wouldn't be able to take my children on field trips because my children's school requires clearances. And so it was a heavy, unexpected, traumatic, that was really, really tough. And getting through that, so I fought it. It ended up being dropped. It wasn't substantiated, but it was still an experience that I'll never forget. And that was yet another experience that showed that any day it could be taken from you.
Wow.
It could be, and it didn't have to do with money. There was no amount of money that could have been thrown at the situation, but there was a sense of resilience. And I think it also helped me raise my voice. So I've always been, quiet. I pretty much be in the corner out. I don't necessarily want to be in front of the room, but it showed me that advocacy was needed and that systems, and this birthed a lot of the stuff that I do now. We needed to create systems and policies and procedures to further protect ourselves and not only get the reassurances, if you will, that they require, meaning we have to have liability insurance, but what about having insurance when there is a stop in your business? Or if something happens, like even for me, if something happens in the business that affects my personal life, do I have anything that will protect myself and my legacy and my family? It changed that. It was like, wait a minute. Any day it can be taken, whether it's financial, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's, a statement that someone makes against you. All of those things could impact you. So it caused me to really look within and be more creative and look deeper. So I'll say resourceful. I learned that I'm a lot more resourceful than I thought. And I now, though, realize too that even in moments like that there's a lot more important to me, which is why I'm also doing these things in my business that will open me up so that I can have more time with the people that I love. And that's the things that are really, really important. So I'll say now I stand a different person because I am a lot more balanced, because I understand that there is more to just business, even though I still love it. I'm a lot more aware. So my awareness is there. And I feel so much better at being balanced. I think sometimes we think being busy is always productive, and it's not, because there's times I'm busy and overwhelmed, and that's not good for anyone, but I can still be productive, and I don't have to be busy to the point where I'm frustrated and overwhelmed. I can say, you know what, that's enough for today. I can now feel when I'm getting overwhelmed, and I'm like, you know what? That doesn't work. I've learned that multitasking isn't productive, right? It's a lot of these things that make you feel like I'm doing 10,000 things in a day. I could do two. I could do two in a day, and I'm good.
That's good.
So, yeah.
That's powerful. I really do appreciate you sharing that, and the level of vulnerability, self awareness that it took for you to get to that point, and also sharing that story that really transformed how you even look at business, how you approach it. Because I think that's a nugget that I hope that no one misses when you're watching this in regards to. I think a lot of times we focus on the offense of creating cash flow and revenue and growth, and visibility rather than the defense. And if something happens to
Yes.
you, or if you have a lawsuit or something happens, how do you play defense and protect all the time and investment in the asset that you have been able to build?
Yes.
Aliya, if you had 60 seconds to share a message with any of your followers, with anyone in the world, 60 seconds that encapsulates everything that you've learned as a part of this journey, what would you say?
Hmm. Oh, I would say it's so interesting. I definitely take the time to share even the moment I had yesterday with my daughter. I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, they had, I thought they were little plants. We call them wishes. And, it had the little stem and all these things, and you blow it and they fly away. And it was as simple as that, where in that moment, I had a few seconds to just dream of what I wanted and make a wish and blow it and believe that it would happen. Take yourself back to being a kid, and things were a lot more simple. It doesn't have to be as complex. Take a moment to dream about who you want to be, what you want to do, and what you want to have, and then spend your life around those goals and move forward, because it includes business, it includes your spirituality, it includes relationships, it includes community, physical health. All of those things are important. So put focus in those, and then every day move closer to each of those areas. And no matter what happens, then you are still content with your life, and you will not feel like life is in vain. In regards to business, again, identify your core values. Make sure that you are very clear about who you are, who you serve, and be that every day. That consistency is what will bring people to you. You don't have to, we spend money in marketing, but being true to yourself and making sure that your staff are clear on who we are and who we stand for, that is what people want. Authenticity, and the people will come. So being true to yourself. And my child care friends, definitely making investments. That includes time and money. We don't get paid enough. Raise your voice, advocate for what you believe in. And again, be true to yourself. That's where the real impact comes. That's what I
There it
say.
is. There it is. Sounded like someone has all of this in a book somewhere. I don't know. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Aliya, where can we find you? I know you're working on some projects
Yes.
behind the scenes. Where can we find you? Stay tuned. And how can we support you?
Yes, yes, yes. So I tried to make it simple. I've learned along the way. Aliya Johnson Roberts. That's where you can find me. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Aliya Johnson Roberts. And yes, we have a lot coming up, including those stories and nuggets in a book. So stay tuned. Connect with me. I'm definitely doing a lot more work. It's so interesting. I'm really working to find this space because I love business. I love business. I also love childcare. So I am doing a lot of work. I'm teaching the 6-step process, which is really focused towards childcare business accelerator, where I teach you the 6 steps to move your business forward so that you can not only increase your revenue, but to gain your time back. Even if you feel overworked and overwhelmed, I can help you. And then it teaches you how to scale your business. But I also am getting ready to roll out an implementation program, because the thing is knowledge is great, but it means nothing if you don't implement it. So coming up is an implementation program teaching you how to literally implement all that I've taught you in the 6-step process, so that you can be a doer of your word and get it done. So those are the things that are coming up. Definitely connect with me. I give out all kinds of free resources as well, videos and how-tos on how to just be better at goal setting, being productive, being better in your business, and being better for yourself. Self-care that comes first, and then once your cup is full, you pour out to everyone else.
Aliya, this has been phenomenal. This has been phenomenal. I have so many notes, and I know you, and there's things that I've heard in this conversation that I didn't even know. So it's really interesting. I feel like I learn from you every single time we talk. Thank you so
Same here.
much for this time.
Thank you.
Anybody listening right now, I want you to follow her on all platforms. I want you to gear up and get ready for the many projects that she's working on the back end, as well as support her on the front end with the different projects that she already has available to you. This is somebody that I vouch for, that I truly believe in, and that I believe is truly making just a transformational impact in so many people's lives, including myself. So I thank you, I honor you, and I'm excited about where the future goes. Not where you go in the future, where the future goes because you're a part of it. So thank you. This is another episode of the Writers Game podcast where we help you magnify your voice and monetize your message. And we'll see you guys next episode.